mais para o centro, eu acho.
Coisinha, sem coisinha?
Não, sem coisinha, mas tem que fazer um nó aqui. Depois eu vejo isso. Deixa.
Só dá um nó aqui.
Não, eu tô focado aqui, deixa, depois eu vejo isso. Eu tenho... olha só, eu preciso saber lá com o Vinícius.
Vai tirar a capa do YouTube agora.
Ok. Bom dia a todos, todas. A gente vai começar então aqui o Hiperorgânicos 10, com o nosso simpósio. Agradeço a presença de todos aqui. A gente vai estar fazendo esse ano essa temática Cosmogonias, Vegetais e Arte. E a ideia hoje é a gente trazer uma discussão em torno desse tema com alguns palestrantes que a gente tem o prazer de convidar e que estão aqui com a gente. Já já a gente vai estar dando início à primeira mesa, né? Eu vou falar só rapidamente da temática. A ideia é pensar um pouco esse contexto dessa virada vegetal que a gente tem escutado falar, né, sobre esse contexto dessa reconexão com a natureza e a importância, talvez, que a gente esteja vendo agora nessa relação com as plantas, muitos artistas que vêm trabalhando com as plantas, as plantas também como enteógenos, as plantas no contexto indígena, enfim. A gente percebeu que seria um momento interessante de pensar não a natureza especificamente, mas esse lugar das plantas na nossa, talvez como um elemento que viabilize essa reconexão, né? Então a gente vai ter vários palestrantes aqui falando sobre aspecto, um ponto de vista científico, de um ponto de vista antropológico, de um ponto de vista artístico. Então eu espero que a discussão seja bem bacana. A gente vai daqui a pouco começar a mesa e depois abrir para perguntas que vocês podem estar aqui com a gente compartilhando. Vou passar aqui para a Malu.
Obrigada. Sem óculos. Bom dia, eu sou a Malu, Fragoso, eu estou aqui com o Guto, Nóbrega para abrir a 10ª edição do Hiperorgânicos. É com muita alegria que a gente consegue chegar aqui pós-pandemia, pós-incêndio, pós muitas confusões, pós-mudança de laboratório. Nós estamos aqui com a nossa equipe do Nano, com uma boa equipe de monitores. O evento é híbrido, ele está acontecendo presencialmente na Inovateca, no Parque Tecnológico, aqui dentro do campus da UFRJ, e também sendo transmitido online, claro que vocês estão assistindo online. Nós vamos passar o dia de hoje até às 5 horas, com várias apresentações e várias falas sobre o nosso tema. Nós estaremos na sexta-feira também, a partir das 9 da manhã, com o laboratório aberto, onde nós teremos apresentações de processos artísticos, também experimentações testadas na hora, né, dados vindos remotamente de pessoas que estão online, que vão estar transmitindo para o nosso servidor, e aí a gente vai estar capturando esses dados aqui e colocando eles, inserindo eles nos processos. Então, vai ser um dia bem interessante, bem ativo, de práticas artísticas. Então, o evento tem essas duas vertentes, uma vertente mais teórica, onde a gente discute essas ações, discute essas práticas, e esse lado do laboratório experimental, com a presença dos artistas aqui. Então, quem quiser vir na sexta-feira será super bem-vindo para participar com a gente dessa aventura experimental artística com as plantas, né? A gente vai ter um terrário que está conectado na internet. Então, isso vocês vão ter acesso pelo site do Nano, que é www.nano.eba.ufrj.br, e o Hiperorgânicos é o link imediato que vocês vão encontrar no site. Que mais
Só, então, a gente vai começar com essa mesa e, como nós temos convidados internacionais, ela vai ser em inglês, mas na hora das perguntas, quem quiser pode fazer pergunta em português ou em inglês direto, e a gente faz uma tradução aqui para os palestrantes, tá? Mas vai ser bem tranquilo.
Quem tiver perguntas online, elas vão ser passadas diretamente aqui pelo microfone também para eles, então vocês podem perguntar, tanto aqui quanto remotamente, né?
Eu acho que é isso, né? Aí pode abrir com...
Mais alguma coisa que a gente possa dizer? Não? Então, agradecemos a presença, agradecemos a Inovateca, queremos agradecer a EBA, o CNPq,
CLA.
a CAPES, o CLA, e todas aquelas pessoas que nos apoiaram. E vamos, então, dar início à mesa em alguns minutinhos. Obrigada.
A gente vai começar com o Carl, tá?
Bom, vou apresentar o Carl Smith.
Yeah, we're ready to go. Great.
Carl, I'm going to present you first. Just a moment.
No problem.
Então, Carl é diretor do Learning Technology Research Center e pesquisador principal do Instituto de Creativity Technology em Ravensbourne, na Universidade de Londres. Ele tem 20 anos de experiência conduzindo um PhD na aplicação de tecnologias híbridas para transformação perceptiva, cognitiva e criativa. Ele está focado no uso de meios tecnológicos e biológicos para alterar, sondar e estudar a natureza espectral da consciência. Sua pesquisa se concentra na geração de novas formas de mídia, incluindo o treinamento de realidade mista, neuroadaptativa, mídia natural e experiências vestíveis. Ele já trabalhou em vários projetos e ele recebeu vários prêmios, inclusive o Horizon European de grande escala, incluindo experiências com vestíveis, com códigos de realidade, e o tema dele de pesquisa hoje é contextologia, que é engenharia de contextos, né? Seus interesses de pesquisa incluem a cognição corporificada, a alfabetização espacial, o unveiled hacking, o aumento sensorial, sentidos artificiais e body hacking. Então, é uma pessoa extremamente dinâmica e multidisciplinar. E aí eu passo a palavra para o Carl. It's with you, Carl. Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. Okay. You see my slides okay? Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Perfect. And how's my audio? Hopefully it's okay. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity to present and also to be the first up. So my talk today is unveiled hacking techniques for achieving hyperhumanism. So my work is very much focused on using both the technological and the biological means to alter, probe, and study the spectral nature of consciousness. So I'm a co-founder of the Cyberdelic Society, where we're looking at all sorts of techniques to create altered states of consciousness without any substances, mainly using digital technologies. I also run the Museum of Consciousness, which is a project looking at sound and altered states of consciousness. So very much non-drug routes for creating altered states. But I'm also very interested in psychedelics, entheogens specifically, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I noticed in my panel, I'm with Lewis today, and he was also at this event in Tyringham. Well, it's the Tyringham Initiative, which took place recently in the UK. And yeah, it was a fascinating event with, there's Lewis there in the middle there. And we had Dennis McKenna, Graham Hancock, we had Eric Davis, Daniel Pinchbeck, Anton here was the benefactor, and he's been doing DMT research or funding DMT research at Imperial College London for 6 years. And yeah, he jokes that instead of giving his children their inheritance, he's actually investing that money on trying to find the sentient other, i.e. looking at the entity encounters that we often experience on ayahuasca, changa, DMT. So yeah, super interesting crowd, and very much fascinated by this idea of the intelligence of the other. So whether that's in the plants or in the entities that we encounter, I believe we're all aliens, including the human race. So it's yeah, it's a fascinating communion between all of us. This was the back cover of the program that was initiated. And this was the front cover. So exploring the presence of the sentient other, which is very much a theme of my work. So whether it's nature that's actually communicating with us through its creativity, I really believe that there is some innate intelligence that's everywhere. And I'm always trying to unlock the different sorts of time that we experience when we're listening to plants or we're hugging a tree. How do we drop into tree time to try and explore that? I'm also really fascinated not just with the three kingdoms of the fungi kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the mammalian kingdom, but also the radiolaria rather, that these single cell organisms that appear to be sentient. You know, there's intelligence there, and even if there's no brain, so what is happening there? But also the fascinating combinations that we see in for instance here with the koji rice, which is both a yeast, a mold, and a bacteria, and the reason why the Japanese live so long, apparently because of this combination. So I spend a lot of time trying to connect with the plant kingdom. And I think that it's a fascinating process to try and prepare yourself. And I think that listening to plants is not a skill that is learned, but a skill that is unlearned. So how do we break down the barriers that we've built up through our cognitive processes? And I'm really fascinated by the fungi kingdom as well, in terms of the mycelium, that intelligence that's underneath our feet. And also an alternative to the capitalist system that we're all embedded in, this materialist system that seems to be above ground, where we're all the cult of the individual and hoarding as much as you can. Whereas if we could see the exchanges with the mitochondria and this automatic sharing once you're in abundance, I think we could learn a lot from that. And that kind of would be, if we could have a mixed reality experience of the mitochondria and the wood wide web, then I think that would be kind of the ultimate sort of cyberdelic, where you would get high off this alternative way of existing. And I'm fascinated by different mushroom species and this whole question of trans and non-binary, because there's certain mushroom species that have not just male, female, but they have 21,000 different types of sex. And just imagine that for a minute as a thought experiment. So the problem and the focus of a lot of my work is how do we recognize? People talk about in the trans humanist sort of the transhumanist agenda. We're seeing this wanting to upload consciousness, but the problem is we don't know what consciousness is. So how can you upload it when you don't understand what it is? And I think it's very true of this phrase here. How do we recognize what is forest when we don't even recognize what is human? And I think that it's such a mystery The Umwelt just refers to this idea of a sensorial system. So your dog and your cat, pets, your pets have very different Umwelts. They may see in black and white. They may have very different systems for hearing and for seeing. So that's their sensorial system, their Umwelt. They're in the world, but they're very much in a different world. Their Umwelt dictates a different world. So we're all in the same world, but we're all having very different experiences of that world. And this idea of Umwelt hacking, how do we get into different Umwelts? How do we become a mycelium network? How do we become a forest? Or how do we become, different plants? And I think that this is where technology, but also techniques of hyperhumanism, the ability to defocus and to give up some of your humanity in order to become the other, the sentient other. So this is a quote that actually really, I'm writing an essay on this subject of hyperhumanism at the moment, and this is the focus. We need to think about a new form of human becoming which has a deeper interpretation on the potentialities of the future than transhumanism. I think a lot of people believe transhumanism is inevitable, but I firmly believe that it is not inevitable. And we can predict, we maybe can't predict the future, but we can create it ourselves. And it doesn't take a lot of people to work together to do that. I think small groups of people can change the world fundamentally. So so create a new reality that isn't transhumanism, because the problem with transhumanism is just imagining that AI or machine learning is taking over from the human becoming, and that we're just going to become cyborgs. So these are the techniques that I'm looking at to focus that hyperhumanism in terms of the Umwelt hacking, and I'm going to talk about this idea of interbeing and different ways of accessing those other species. Journaling, double consciousness, DMT extended, which is the experiment that we discussed amongst many other things at the Tyringham Initiative. So can these techniques lead to an embodied sense of living in a nested ecology, i.e. hyperhumanism? And also, does an awareness of the cyclical nature of multiple mechanisms of reality, including death? I think that one of the big problems is that we have this taboo about death, lead to this idea of perceptual flexibility and cognitive diversity, or are we just building new realms of augmented escapism? And I'm very conscious that any VR experience we build, or any mixed reality experience we build, people tend to focus on the technology and not on the outcomes. So humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together and all things connect. So how can we build embodied experiences of this lack of us being at the top of the food chain? I think that we're very arrogant as a species, and we believe that it's our right to sort of eat every other species, and not just in terms of our food supply, but also in terms of our destruction of almost all the other species around us. So the hypothesis around this Umwelt hacking project is, can we increase compassion between us and these other species, these other kingdoms, to help us realize that we're in this nested ecology? And therefore, will that change behavior? Because that's a big jump. Just because we may have an experience of being in a nested ecology, a physical embodied experience, we may not then change our behavior. But what else can we do? So as I mentioned, we're focusing on those three kingdoms: the plant kingdom, the mycelium kingdom, the fungi kingdom, and the animal kingdom, including us. So the goal is to make playful prosthetics, mostly analog prosthetics, that create a bridge between what these entities experience and what we experience. So the process has involved a lot of working with people like Merlin Sheldrake, who wrote fantastic fungi, amazing book, but also other experts in the field that have done existing attempts, like David Abrams, Charles Foster, who wrote a book called Being a Beast, where he lives as a badger, a deer, an otter, and an urban fox. Also working with Marshmallow Laserfeast, that are one of the key sort of players in the VR space, and did a big project called In the Eyes of the Animal. So a lot of people have focused on becoming animal, but a lot of people have not focused on becoming tree or becoming plant. Although Marshmallow Laserfeast did a brilliant brilliant project with a digital twin. They scanned a redwood tree in Yosemite Park, and they had a whole experience of becoming tree and experiencing what it was like to be tree from the perspective of water flowing through it. So we're creating these prosthetics, and I'll show you some images shortly. And we're testing with a variety of users, including the neurodiverse, because we believe the neurodiverse have they've got hidden abilities that that give them a kind of an extra sensory perception that we want to utilize. And I think a lot of neurodiversity is badly represented and needs reframing. So it's an iterative process, user testing, reflecting on the experience, and then creating iterative adaptations on the prototypes. And then we're producing a framework which will enable groups like yourselves to actually take what we've learned and then run with it yourselves. We're also creating retreats of the process. So let's start with the animal kingdom. And one of the most interesting things about the octopus is that they have a brain in each arm, in each tentacle. So they have this partial sort of control over their own systems, right? There is a central brain, but then the octopus watches the arms do their thing, right? And hopes that they will all coalesce and go in the same direction, which is a fascinating thing of when we think about control. So how do we experience that? How would we experience this brain in different parts of the body? And if you think about it, the heart we know has neural matter in it. Other organs have, we talk about the stomach as another brain, and I think that the lungs are another brain. If we're not breathing properly, then the rest of the system is not functioning. So we have this distributed brain, and I think that these animal kingdoms, the mycelium kingdom, can give us a much greater sense of that. Also, the skin of an octopus can taste. So imagine tasting through your skin, and how could we experience that? And they can sense light, so they're literally seeing through their skin. So these are sort of the key principles of then how we actually create these prosthetics. So we're exploring ways of amplifying the sensation of the skin. So we imagine that by giving our human bodies amplified tactility and more sensation through these whiskers, each arm becomes more kinesthetically intelligent, sentient, and curious, and can experience the world more like an octopus. And it's an experiment about becoming more somatic and valuing the kinesthetic understanding of the octopus, putting on a suit and becoming playful with your environment. So we've done quite hilarious workshops with people, like, feeling their extra tentacles, and this is one of the neurodiverse participants, and they just apply these whiskers in extremely unusual ways, and they unlock different ways of doing these experiences, and feeling entirely new forms of sensation, I think, is the aim of this project, but with very, very low tech interventions that are extremely cheap to produce. So we also created these wind whiskers that would allow us to become forest, to feel as if we had like branches coming out of our bodies. And the experience of a mycelium network. I had an amazing experience recently with my flat losing power in central London. It's very rare that you'll have a power cut, but we had a power cut, and oh gosh, what have I done? Go back. 1 second, sorry. I had this experience of a power cut in my flat, and it was very much like we have 150 flats in the building, and people have a back channel on WhatsApp, and everyone was discussing how much power they had left on their devices and whether anyone had extra power that they could share with people that had less power. So it was suddenly like an embodied experience of being in a mycelium network, with power being shared with participants of the network that were not fully powered up. So yeah, these experiences. Let me share this quickly. This is the dark side of the mycelium network.
individuals, but the ground beneath our feet tells a different story. Trees are secretly talking, trading, and waging war on one another. They do this using a network of fungi that grow around and inside their roots. The fungi provide the trees with nutrients, and in return they receive sugars. But scientists have found this connection runs far deeper than first thought. By plugging into the fungal network, trees can share resources with each other. The system has been nicknamed the Wood Wide Web. It's thought that older trees, fondly known as mother trees, use this fungal network to supply shaded seedlings with sugars, giving them a better chance of survival. Those trees that are sick or dying may dump their resources into the network, which might then be used by healthier neighbours. Plants also use fungi to send messages to one another. If they're attacked, they can release chemical signals through their roots, which can warn their neighbours to raise their defences. But like our internet, the Wood Wide Web has its dark side too. Some orchids hack the system to steal resources from nearby trees, and other species, like the black walnut, spread toxic chemicals through the network to sabotage their rivals. Arboreal cybercrime aside, scientists are still debating why plants seem to behave in such an altruistic way. The hidden network creates a thriving community between individuals. When you're next in woodland, you might like to think of trees as part of a big superorganism, chatting and swapping information and food under your feet.
Okay, so let me speed up a little bit. So we've created a framework around this project, and I think that it's very much around this idea of creating prosthetics that actually disable a lot of our humanity. You know, not being able to pick up our phone, you know, dropping into deep observation around what the forests are actually paying attention to, what are the fungi paying attention to, how do we drop into different types of time. And I think it's this idea of observing the nutrient exchanges as well. And mushrooms and trees can't generally move, so maybe we need to bury ourselves in order to have these experiences. And I think it's true when we're reading novels, we can imagine what it likes to feel a character. Why can't we imagine how the land feels? And I'm doing a big project on sound where I'm playing sound to landscapes. Instead of playing sound to humans, I'm playing sound to buildings or to landscapes, and then doing a field recording before and after in order to try and create this dialogos between us. And I'm fascinated by all the you know, this death literacy and how we can work with the mushrooms to decompose and go back into the land. My friend Jay Cousin wants to build a mushroom house and then wants to be eaten by that house and become food for the environment. So we're creating these whisker boxes so that people can try out these experiments themselves, and feel free to email me. carlhaydensmith@gmail.com would be the best email for that. So I'm just going to skip some of the last bits because I'm realizing I'm running out of time. But one of my big ways of dropping into or dropping out of point of view is to journal. So I'm very interested in using my my process of capturing my world. So I write my journal from 3 levels. So I write content, what I did, context, how I felt, and concepts, what I thought. And it creates this amazing ability for me to have this superpower where I can jump out of point of view and jump into field of view, because I can take cross sections through my life. And I've been writing this for 30 years, so I can take cross sections through 30 years of journaling and see 30 different me's reappear and do things with my memory that I could never actually do with my normal memory. And it's amazing because if I've been in a relationship for a year, I can turn that relationship, I can read the whole relationship in an afternoon, and I can turn it into a bird's eye view image where I'm able to see patterns starting to form, pattern recognition, which I wouldn't get in the normal everyday point of view. And I'm really interested in this idea of double consciousness. It's a term that came up when 100 years ago, but I'm really interested in the idea of the shamanic trance. So a shaman is both in the real world and also in the you know, the body of the person he's trying to heal. If we think about this quote from Roy Ascott, techno shamanism is about this idea that in virtual worlds, we know we're in a game environment, but we're also very conscious we're in the physical world. And as Roy says here, this techno-shamanism may lead to an evolution of cognition where the subject-object relationship, which is what we're playing with here in virtual reality, is dissolved, and reality begins to be actively constructed rather than passively observed. And yeah, if you think about the cordyceps mushroom that takes over the ant, you know, it's not really leading to a double consciousness because the ant is just zombified by the mushroom, with the mushroom springing out and destroying the ant at a certain point. But if we think about our experience with psilocybin, we know that there's 200 mushrooms that contain psilocybin. We're sort of spreading the spores of the mushroom, but we're also becoming we're seeing the world in a more mushroomy way because we consume the mushroom. So that's more of this sort of double consciousness where both sides of the consciousness are benefiting. So these are some of the, and I'm creating these literacies around these terms. So double consciousness here is the cloud tree. This is concrete from Mexico. It looks like concrete, but it's actually Mexico from above. So yeah, the tree man, the tree ear, these sorts of these abilities to connect two different disparate things. So a man with no arms and a man with no legs riding a bike. It's some heartbeat inside a new, 4-year-old transplant recipient. So, you know, a true double consciousness happening. And I've done a lot of experiments living in virtual reality. This is a project with Mark Farid, who wants to spend his life, 30 days of his life literally inside somebody else. So he's not in a game environment. He's looking through somebody else and hearing to their world in order to try and dissolve his own reality, to dissolve his own personality. And we've chosen a month because that's how long it takes to dissolve or to create habits. So finally, DMT extended. And DMT, I've done 6 years of research at Imperial College, and I was actually the first person to experience all 5 doses of DMT-X. So DMT extended is when they drip feed you DMT. And if you think about ayahuasca is 20% active in terms of DMT. DMT extended is 100% DMT, and they can keep you inside the DMT journey potentially indefinitely. So yeah, Graham Hancock's just talked about this project on Joe Rogan, and yeah, just an amazing experience of being. So this is me in the second phase with having my brain scanned in an fMRI scanner. This is me before the scan, and this is me directly afterwards. So yeah, just an astonishing privilege to be able to try legal DMT in London in a hospital, having my brain scanned. I haven't got time to go into it, but the sentient other being sort of shown to me, and I see this light language persistently, and it looks like VR. You know, it looks holographic. It looks like I'm seeing you know, the logos in the DMT experience, and I'm trying to draw it. And I wanted to draw it in the DMT extended experience, but that was against protocol. But I put a shout out to other people. Are you seeing this light language? And people started sending me examples of what they're seeing. This was the closest from Alison Gray, but still too flat, too not 3D enough. Andrew Gallimore, who's also at the Tyrium Initiative, you know, his proposal is that we launch into DMT extended and stay in DMT land. You know, live there even. But I think that is a bit misguided, because we're here to have a human experience. In my real belief that our human experience, maybe we've won the jackpot to be human, even though it's quite a challenge. I think that if we're going to try and hijack that human experience, we may be onto
Call.
Yeah,
you're not sharing your screen, okay?
Oh. Oh shit!
Your screen is not be sharing.
Can you go back a little bit? Maybe we can.
Yeah, sure. But I still got some time because I was just conscious of time. But let me share my screen. Okay, hopefully this works now. Can you see my screen now? Yes? Can you see my screen? So this was the light language I was showing. Sending me in terms of the Yeah, this was the closest that Alison Gray had produced this light language from her experiences, and yeah, this was the closest I was getting, but it's still far too flat. And this was the quote from Andrew Gallimore: "You will learn how your brain constructs your subjective world and how psychedelic drugs alter the structure of this world. How DMT switches the reality channel by allowing the brain to access information from normally hidden orthogonal dimensions of reality. And finally, you will learn how DMT provides the secret to exiting our universe permanently, to complete the cosmic game and to become interdimensional citizens of hyperspace." And I think we complete the game when we die anyway. I'm not sure we need to die before our time. But yeah, I think the DMT extended experience is a fascinating one, but maybe not to escape permanently. And as you can see, Andrew here, it's a suspended animation where we are not really having a full double consciousness, because our bodies are like, we have our waste management, and we're fed through a drip. And I just think that this is a disservice to the body, because we'll lead to this kind of dreaming whilst on DMTX. Imagine that, so having a DMT haircut, DMT swimming lessons. And I just think that, from Jack here, that there's a danger that the psychedelic state is becoming overly romanticized. DMTX could be argued to be a new form of biochemical VR, that we're getting stuck inside another Game of Thrones that is not on a screen, but inside our minds. We have to rise above everything being reduced to entertainment. Otherwise, we will become junkies of altered states that just don't go anywhere. So yeah, I'm really fascinated by 5-MeO DMT than DMT, because I believe that is death, and I think that does give you access or a window onto death, which is just pure love. And this breaking down of the non-dual, the subject-object collapse, where you just become light itself at the top of the pyramid. And I think that is enough of an experience to then come back to your human experience. So I think that what we're doing with these substances is experiencing different relations with light. So in the 5-MeO, the bufo space, you're becoming light itself. But with DMT, with ayahuasca, you're seeing light emanate from bodies, and we become light bodies. And it's interesting that the empirical research shows that during a DMT experience, an ayahuasca experience, you're experiencing the dreamlike state. You're in your light body. And I think that's a super fascinating finding, that it looks like you're dreaming. And I think a lot of us would agree that ayahuasca is very different to dreaming, but your brain is in a dreamlike state. And obviously in the third dimension, we're having light shine upon us. And I think that just shows that we're experiencing different relations with light through different dimensions, and you're all of those dimensions at once. But sometimes it takes a technique, some breath work, or it takes some medicines to be able to access those different dimensions. This was a sketch that I did with Chris Timmerman, and I was just sort of putting this theory together. So different degradations of light as we come down. And this was an experience I had where I experienced through breathwork and cold immersion, the flower of light just superimposed over reality, a very different kind of experience of light. So just to conclude, I think that there are major benefits to hyperhumanism as opposed to transhumanism. I hope I've outlined a little bit about what hyperhumanism is, but it's just this idea that we can use technology as a scaffold in order to create our own, or to ignite our own innate human abilities. I think that technology should not be permanent. I think that we should be using the internet maybe as a bigger brain, just to, as a last resort, really, if we can't get there ourselves. And yeah, I'm really interested in this idea of perceptual flexibility, going into these liminal spaces, the hypnopompic, the hypnagogic states. So when you're waking up or falling asleep, why is it that that's the time when you're most creative? And really trying to reignite the imagination, because a lot of the transhumanist agenda is about becoming cyborg, becoming permanently attached to something that is raping you of your own imagination. And I think we need to be very careful not to replace imagination with computer animation, which happens a lot. And I think that we need to become an ecology of selves, these plex creatures, not just these individuals. We must all realize now that the individual is you know, it's kind of a cul-de-sac when we have this abundance and we're not sharing, you know, we're killing everything else. And I think I live by this mantra that if, you know, if not everyone's okay, then none of us are okay. And I also believe it's very important to have an ecology of practices, not just one practice, but, you know, whether it's mindfulness, inquiry, embodiment practice, momentum practice, it's about creating your ecology of practices and then that allowing you to live in a nested ecology. So thank you very much. And sorry if I didn't share all the slides. I'll share them later.
Thank you, Carl. We're going straight to the next presenter, so you have a discussion at the end, okay?
Thank you.
So I'm going to invite Luna for the next talk. Hi, Luna.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, pretty sure.
Okay.
Just an introduction, a brief introduction. So, Luna é linguista, antropólogo, doutor em religião comparada, e sua esposa, a produtora cultural Adriana Luna, criaram o Wasiwaska, Centro de Pesquisa para Estudo das Plantas Psicointegradoras, Arte Visionária e Consciência, criaram em outubro de 2003, que é uma organização educacional e é concebido como um lugar para a troca de ideias de mente aberta sobre consciência, criatividade, ciências e artes, história, mito e espiritualidade. Vou passar a palavra para o Luna, então. Luna, por favor. Obrigado.
Ok. Obrigado, Guto, e obrigado também, Malu, por este convite. Então, eu acho que vou ir... sorry, I'm speaking Portuguese now. Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation, Guto and Malu, and I'm going directly to my presentation. Okay, let me see if it works. Share screen. Allow. I cannot allow it. I don't know. I've never used this program. Entire screen. Let me see. I'm sorry. I cannot open. I thought that it was just like Zoom, just a click and. Do you hear me? Hello?
Ajuda para o Luna. Hi, Luna, yes,
Oi.
estou ouvindo.
Como posso mostrar minhas diapositivas? Não compreendo este programa.
Não tem uma compartilhar tela aí embaixo, é só clicar e aí você escolhe a tela. Você fez em PowerPoint?
Sí, está en Keynote, pero present y luego ¿qué? Slides o qué? O video file? No.
Não, é compartilhar tela.
Mas ¿dónde está eso? ¿Dónde está compartilhar tela? Aquí en este programa. Nunca usé este programa. Preciso hablar con um técnico. Aqui.
Gente, passa para ele, por favor.
No, agora não estou conseguindo nada. Alô?
Hola Luis.
Sí,
Nosotros estamos
ahora
viendo
no
su
sé dónde.
pantalla, pero está exhibiendo la pantalla de StreamYard. Entonces puede cambiar para la
Espera,
ventana
es que
de
no.
slide.
¿Tú estás viendo mi janela o no?
Sí,
Tú estás viendo mi janela, ok.
sí, sí.
Mas agora como faço para compartilhar minha janela com você? Oh, já está compartilhada?
Sí, sí, sí.
Ah, ok. Então eu posso começar.
Sí, sí.
Assim. Está tudo certo. Ok. Perfeito.
Mas estamos vendo a sua janela do StreamYard. Você precisa mudar para a janela da sua apresentação. O que está aparecendo para a gente é a janela do StreamYard.
Ah, ok. Então não sei como se faz isso. Espera aí.
Se você
Espera,
conseguir...
não consigo entrar na janela da apresentação que você
Na
está
hora
vendo. Não consigo
na hora
entrar.
que você compartilhou a tela, você selecionou a
Ok.
tela.
Agora já veio. Alô?
Oi.
Espera aí, não consigo. Okay.
Você precisa encerrar a tela de compartilhamento e iniciar novamente e selecionar a janela do slide.
Ok, vamos ver. Lo que eu veo aqui é mute, stop, setting, stop screen, present, leave studio. ¿Dónde está essa tela? ¿Dónde está compartilhar?
Embaixo no StreamYard tem um botão de uma tela com símbolo de mais.
Ah, um símbolo de mais, sim. Logo.
Aí você vai stop presentation.
Stop screen, ok.
Agora você faz novamente o share screen selecionando a sua apresentação.
Share screen. Agora sim?
Ainda não.
Não? Não?
Não.
Não sei. Eu estou fazendo o que tu me dizes. Present, share screen. Share screen e não acontece nada.
Não chegou nada para gente.
Então não compreendo o que é nunca usei este programa.
Mas eu vou mandar para onde? Manda para e-mail.
Eu estou seguindo tuas instruções, tá?
Luna, talvez você pode mandar para a gente por e-mail essa apresentação?
Mas é muito grande.
É grande, né?
Sim. Eu posso mandar, mas vai tardar tempo. Não poderia mandar por e-mail. Teria que mandar por WeTransfer ou algum programa que tenha maior capacidade.
Vamos tentar.
Posso mandar por WeTransfer?
Pode ser, pode mandar. Pode mandar. Coloca seu e-mail, Vinícius, que ele vai mandar por WeTransfer. Eu vou passar então, Luna, eu vou passar para a Olga, talvez.
Olga. Sim.
Isso. E aí você manda pelo e-transfer para o e-mail que eu estou te colocando aí na tela para você. É o e-mail do Vinícius.
Espera, não vejo nada. Onde está o
chat?
Espera, o chat. Está aqui à direita, um momento. Onde está o não vejo o endereço. Vinícius, já, agora sim.
O V minúsculo, tá?
Ok.
Escreve com V minúsculo.
Não, já copiei o... Ok, então tá.
Tá, e aí a gente vai continuar com a Olga, então.
Tá certo, tá certo.
Ok, sem problema, Luna, obrigado.
Ok.
Isso. Olga, are you online?
Posso ir apresentando a Olga, que a gente já vai vendo. Então, Olga Kisseleva é uma artista francesa de origem russa, ucraniana. Ela trabalha principalmente em instalações de ciência, arte e mídia. Seu trabalho emprega várias mídias, incluindo vídeo, realidade virtual imersiva, web, tecnologia sem fio, performance, instalações de arte em grande escala e exposições interativas. Hoje ela leciona New Media Art e Arte Ciência na Universidade de Paris 1, Panthéon-Sorbonne. De 2007 a 2009, ela foi membro do Alto Comitê Científico da Sorbonne, e ela desenvolve um projeto que chama EDEN, que a tradução das iniciais é Durabilidade, Ecologia e Natureza, que teve início em 2012. E ele continua, é um projeto em fluxo contínuo, ele continua acontecendo. E Olga foi convidada nossa num projeto outro que chama Terra como Princípio Educativo, para passar uma temporada, uns dias, no Mato Grosso, onde ela pôde desenvolver uma etapa desse projeto. Ela vai falar um pouco disso, eu vou falar um pouco disso depois também. E é uma proposta de fazer árvores se comunicarem pela internet e de fazer um resgate genético de árvores que estão com saúde em locais do mundo, para que essas informações passem para as árvores que estão em sofrimento em locais que têm devastados ou com problemas de clima, para que as árvores possam se recuperar, e isso está acontecendo realmente. Então, eu vou passar a palavra para Olga, e ela vai falar um pouco do projeto dela, Eden. Olga, can you hear me? Ela caiu? Caiu. Quem está comandando agora é o Carlos? Gente, eles conseguem fazer plantas se comunicarem, a gente não consegue se comunicar num auditório com meia dúzia de pessoas comandando o equipamento. Mas é assim mesmo. Faz parte. Pode ser, Olga, it's with you. I just presented you.
I'm about to try to share my screen.
Yes, try again.
And I hope it will work.
We're still not seeing your screen.
Does it work?
Yes, now it's working. We can see it.
It's working? Fine. Perfect. So I will make it full screen. Okay, and now I'm back to the presentation. So can you see my screen? Everything is okay?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, you can hear me? It is okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation and for this beautiful place we are presenting. I am Olga Kisseleva, and I work on art and science in the University of Paris 1, which is a very old and conservative university called also Sorbonne, Panthéon-Sorbonne. And I would like to speak you about the project you mentioned, Malu, which is the Eden project. We are developing in Sorbonne since 10 years. Oh, you cannot see my screen? It doesn't move? Sorry?
It didn't move. It's still on the first page.
It's strange. I will I will stop and move it.
Okay.
Okay. Does it
Now
work?
it's showing. Yes.
And
Yes, it's moving.
it's moving. Okay. So
Now it's
perfect.
on. Went off.
Why it's off? What happened? I will try to see both of them. Okay. I do it once more. Partager l'écran. Partager l'écran. Mettre. Ok. Partager. Okay. Now you see the screen. And
Yes,
now you
see
see
it.
it moving. Yes, it works. Okay. Okay. So the Eden project, it is ethic, durability, ecology, and nature. So it is about how to protect nature, how to help it to survive, and in the beginning, and then also it's about what we can learn from nature and how we can stay in dialogue with it. So the project started about 10 years ago with a very old elm tree in south of France, in the city of Biscarrosse, which was dead, and for which I was asked to make a monument. And instead of making a bronze or marble statue, like the city administration was initially supposing I will do, I proposed to restore the tree itself. The problem then, the tree was completely ill and contaminated by graphiose, which is a special illness of all elms across Europe, and it was impossible to restore it. So we worked with INRA, a French laboratory of agriculture, to cross this tree with another tree which is resistant to the graphiose. And finally, we managed to have an alive tree, which was not only an alive tree, but also a kind of son of the tree, which was dead there, and which was very important for the city because it is a legendary tree, which is a part of history of France, history of art, and like all local legends. So since we managed this strange artwork, which was in fact an alive statue, we was very much asked to go to help different trees and plants all across the world. So we worked, for example, in Kazakhstan, which is a very big and important country in Central Asia, on the apple tree, a special apple tree apport, which was created there like 1 century ago, and which was on the crossing of the very first initial tree, Sivers tree, which gives the beginning of all trees on the earth. and another very, very like normal banana tree, which came from Ukraine, and it gave a very, very special kind of trees, very big and very tasty, and which was completely exterminated because of intensive city buildings and also mall buildings all around the city. So we are working now on the restoration of this apple tree in Kazakhstan. We also worked during few years in Palestine on the restoration of Ravensbourne, which is a native tree of Negev desert, and which was a holy tree of Jew people because of the special liquid we can get from Ravensbourne and make oil, and this oil was used in the temple, and it was a kind of holy liquid which was burned there by coins, and this the substance was going directly to the god. And so this tree was completely exterminated maybe 1,000 years ago. And this why the Negev desert, which we know from Bible as a garden, became a desert. And here you see what it is now. It is a desert, but which is about to become a garden again, because Israeli scientists managed to restore this Ravensbourne tree, and now it is planted all across this territory. And since it is a native tree of the territory, it can be here without any additional water, without any additional material. So the desert is regreener. And it is no more desert, and we hope it will become a garden again. So to work on all these trees in distance, we have to monitor their health and their like well-being. So we have to communicate with trees. So we created a system which allow us to get different signals tree is emitting, like the noises, circulation of liquid, electrical signals, pressure dilatation, gas emissions, and quality of chlorophyll in the leaves, etc. All this information goes to the laboratory thanks to the LoRa system, and then we can analyze it, and we can know how the tree is now, what is its feeling and its state of health. So it is a system we call biological network, tree to network. So it's the information going to the laboratory. But since we can have this information in the laboratory, we can understand it, we can also retransmit it and make the tree speak through the continent, through the territory. And this way, the tree which not communicate together usually can communicate and can tell the stories each to other. So on the way, we are here to get this information and to transform it into artistic work. And through this artistic work, the tree can also speak to the public, to humans, to visitors of our exhibition. For example, since we worked with Ravensbourne in Israel, we produce this artwork, which we presented simultaneously in the Negev Museum of Art and also in the Jordan Gallery of Fine Art in Israel and in Arabic world. And our tree was speaking during these exhibitions across the Jordan River, something what the humans don't agree to do so much for the moment. We also we are working with what we call drunken forest in the north of Europe, where because of climate change, trees don't have enough of ground to stay straight, so they are no more straight. They are like drunken people, 60 degrees or 45 degrees, and it is a not normal situation for tree. So we try to help them to learn how to live, how to keep stand up in this situation. We also work with some remarkable trees which have a lot of memory. For example, like this Chateaubriand cedar in the center of Paris, which was planted by René Chateaubriand and which seen different important events, revolutions, 68 May, and many things. And he can, he, not it. So he can speak us, also tell us about this experience. This tree is another remarkable tree. It is a Volemy pine, which is a very long time ancestor of the cedar, which was just found a few years ago. Very few trees was found in Blue Mountains next to Sydney, in the Volemy Valley. And it is like if we found an alive dinosaur. It is very precious, very rare. And it was very difficult to bring this tree out from this valley because we don't know anything about our world. So we put them in the connection with cedars from Japanese Alps, and also with Chateaubriand cedar in Paris. And the contemporary tree was telling them a little bit about our contemporary world. So it was like very big connection across ocean. We also worked with kauri trees in New Zealand, which are huge trees, something like sequoia, and very important trees for the Maori culture. So we learned many things about trees from Maori, and we understood the importance of native people and their traditions for the understanding of nature. And this year, I had a big chance to be part of the project organized by NANO, which is called Land as a Principle of Education, co-produced also by UNIMAD. So we went to Amazonia, to New Amazonia, which is about to lost already its nature, but still have some part of it, and still have, fortunately, some native people and native village, and the tradition is still kept. So we work it with the local trees. We take our usual measurements, we recorded it, and we made it analyzed by our French partners, French scientists, but we also discuss it with local people, their perception of these trees, their way to communicate with them in the frame of their tradition. And we hope one day we will be able to produce a new artwork coming from Umanchina, and which will be Eden Umanchina, representing the stories we could heard from the local Brazilian trees. Thank you very much. And if you want to speak more about this project exchange, I leave you my contacts here. And if you have some questions, I will be happy to discuss it with you. I will stop the presentation. Yeah. Some questions? Malu, you don't have your mic. I cannot hear you. Your mic is off. Yeah, now it's okay.
That was on?
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
it's
okay. So I was just saying that we're going to hear Luna now, if he's able to give his talk presentation, and then we're going to open for questions. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
E como está a apresentação do Luna? Não tá? Ele vai falar sem mostrar?
Minuto, sim.
Nós estamos tendo problema com... Aí...
Ok, deu. Chegou para vocês minha apresentação por WeTransfer? Guto?
Não chegou, né?
Vinícius?
Nada.
Deve estar chegando já, porque já saiu de aqui.
Chegou, só um instante.
Ok.
Então, enquanto nós esperamos para que seja conectada e apresentada nos slides do Luna, eu vou só lembrar que nós estamos aqui no evento Hiperorgânicos, 10ª edição. Nós estaremos hoje com o nosso simpósio até às 5 da tarde e na sexta-feira com o laboratório aberto, também das 9 às 5 da tarde. Então, vocês estão convidados a vir aqui na Inovateca para participar com a gente dessa experiência e também acompanhar online. Não sei se eu abro para alguma pergunta. Guto, o que você acha? Abro para alguma pergunta enquanto a gente...
Malu, pode trabalhar algumas perguntas enquanto a gente está fechando aqui, tá?
Tá bom.
Falta um pouquinho.
Aí você pode botar os outros dois na tela, por favor.
Eu espero que vocês tenham Keynote. Vocês têm Keynote?
Olá, Olga and Carl, we're gonna open for questions while we wait for Luna's presentation to be ready to be on our screen. Maybe we can go for questions. Yes.
Sounds good.
Do we have any online questions? People that are on StreamYard? No, we don't have online questions. Do we have any questions here? I would like to make a comment and to bring about a subject that is very interesting for me, of course. Carl was in our class also a few days ago, and something that really struck me was the idea of this hacking the unveiled, which will make this possibility of communication with other unveileds, with other species. And I think in Olga's work, this is a very big challenge. We were just commenting before that we were not able to communicate within ourselves here. And we're trying to communicate with trees and trying to make trees communicate. So I would like to ask if you can comment a bit about this difficulty, which is how hard it is for us to break, to hack this unveiled, and to understand that how can we trespass our mental condition to try to understand what is some bit of what is happening in this other universe, the plant universe. And if Olga could comment a bit how difficult it is for her to understand this communication, how you can translate this, how we can, you make the visitors of the exhibition communicate or understand this communication. How do you see this, which is very interesting for us to understand how artists are dealing with this way of expressing this communication. So if you could, any of you can start.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I mean, I think I'm really fascinated by Olga's presentation as well. I think the key thing is, yeah, it's complicated, and I think it's a huge challenge. But whether we're using meditation, whether we're using breath work, whether we're using technologies, I mean, I'll give you a few examples. The whole philosophical debate about becoming a bat, you know, like this is a big one in the history of philosophy. And a lot of people have used, you know, virtual reality, for instance. But I think that the most interesting thing is when people start to, you know, install like echolocation directly into their senses. You know, this is extreme and more of a transhumanist approach. But I think that these are the things that are happening, and also animal communication as well. I know I've just been working on a project where we're able to sort of experience or witness whales, like a parent whale communicating with a baby whale, and the kind of sounds that you can now see that there is this communication occurring. And I think there's a long history in that. I mean, I'd love to hear more from Olga about the tree communication, but I think it's, as I mentioned in my talk, it's about unlearning a lot of the time. We're very much in our heads a lot of the time, and I think it's about becoming much more embodied, and you know, and even that understanding that there's a different yoga for each chakra. I only found out recently about back to yoga, and that's the heart, the heart yoga. So I think if we can understand that we need distributed cognition in order to do umwelt hacking and to get out of the cognition. And I think that's where psychedelics really help. They switch off the default mode network, this constant brain chatter that plagues us as humans. It's very useful when we're trying to get stuff done in the material world, but it's not so good when we're doing umwelt hacking. So this ability to, or even like interspecies splicing with Cambo, for instance, where you become frog. Through the medicine, through sharing, through DNA, you know, you're literally partaking in the frog, or whether it's you know, through 5-MeO and bufo. But anyway, I think that's enough from me.
Yeah, I think there is two way. In fact, as you said, Carl, there is two way to communicate with trees. You can do it through your body and your own spirit. If you have this knowledge, if your ancestors kept it for you, or if you learn it from the peoples who managed to keep it and to learn it, it's also not easy. We need to be prepared, and we need to have many facility. Personally, unfortunately, my ancestors didn't kept any knowledge of communication with trees, even if I come from the people who usually live it in the middle of the forest, and even the names, like ancient names of my people, speak about forest. It was like Drevljani or Poljani, which in Slavic languages, which seems people who live in between trees or on a place in the middle of the forest. But we preferred technology, we preferred progress, and we lost all this knowledge. So I tried to learn it from Maori and also from native Brazilians, but it's so difficult. So for the moment, I didn't manage it. And I still only use technology. Technology, it's easy to learn. You only need to learn mathematics, physics, biology, and chemistry, and then you can understand everything. And of course, you cannot, but it's easy to find people who is educated. So you need a big team, and then you can understand and have all messages translated. And of course, all this story, it's to say how it is important to keep and to protect this initial knowledge, this native knowledge, which you still have the possibility in Brazil, and which allow us to communicate with nature easily. So please don't forget to keep it for the whole humanity.
Yeah, just wanted to come back a little bit on that. I think just to build on what Olga's saying, I think that it's a lot to do with your belief system as well, like what you think is possible in terms of communicating with the other kingdoms, because we're caught up in this materialist capitalist belief system most of the time, and a lot of the other, you know, the idealism and you know, the things that we learn from Jeremy Narby, etc. These belief systems could really enable us to you know, to go beyond our humanity. And I'm really interested in some stories that I heard even in Mexico. This idea of the sorcerers in Mexico. One of my friends saw he was just walking around in the landscape and saw a ray of light passing by, and he said to his friend, what was that I just saw? And he said, oh, that's a sorcerer. And the sorcerers, apparently they take so much datura that they then once they're using the datura, they hang themselves upside down inside a tree and will actually pierce themselves onto the bark of the tree, and then literally stay there for days on end, becoming tree. And I think that that's a really interesting, very extreme example, because then they become shapeshifters, right? And they move beyond the human to be able to experience this idea of then becoming a ball of light or a ray of light. And then as soon as you have that idea in your head and you hear those stories, then suddenly the range of what you believe is possible becomes much greater. And I really think that we need better storytelling. And if you think about, like, the Norse gods, Odin, for instance, did exactly that. He found the runic system through hanging upside down inside a tree. And I think, you know, if you listen carefully enough. It's about our senses becoming more sensitive and, you know, listening to the trees singing. You know, I think this is a real skill, and it's about unlearning a lot of what we've been taught.
I'd like to comment on that for a moment, because one of the things that we observed on the artwork that gives the plant some kind of action, some kind of feedback from the plant, which tells people that it's alive. It's as if we go through the world and we don't realize, we know it's alive, but we don't realize it's reacting and it's perceiving our presence. And when you give this feedback for people, for the public in artistic works and experimentations, yeah, the public, you know, people just realize, well, this is really alive, so I can interact. So it's something interesting to know that maybe technology, it's becoming some kind of a channel, some kind of a second row or a possibility of maybe helping humans to understand that we are connected and that everything is alive around us, and that we do affect what happens in the world around us, and it does affect us. So sometimes you need technology to just make that come about. And it's like a surprise. It's so obvious, but it surprises people. And I think that's interesting. And in ways that we can, with design and with art, bring about this consciousness of, yes, it's alive and we can connect. I think this is one of the, for us, I mean, here in Nano, I think we work with that mainly. And I do it with the bees, and the idea is reconnecting. So this is, it's hard to hack the unveiled, but maybe with reconnection, we can find a way of getting closer to other kingdoms.
Malu, temos uma pergunta.
We have a question here. Can you read it, Carl? I can read it. By your perception, what's currently the most interesting, exciting way to intervene in the spectral nature of consciousness?
Great question. Yeah, I think obviously I learned a lot, and I'm really fascinated by what you're doing in Brazil, and you know, it kickstarted a lot of my thinking around these subjects of umwelt hacking. And yeah, I guess I've been exploring consciousness for many years, and with different modalities, and I think that I've done a lot with technology, and I think that the problem we're facing as the you know, the world at the moment is the crisis, the energy crisis. So whether we're going to be plugging into any kind of metaverse, you know, is something I'm debating. And I think that the metaverse question is, you know, nobody wants Zuckerberg's metaverse. I think that's clear by the loss of 3/4 of his value over the last year because of his renaming of Meta, or Facebook into Meta. So for me, the most interesting way is the you know, the non-drug, the minimal technology. Technology is a scaffold for creating, you know, this opportunity to build your own innate human abilities. And if we think about Elon Musk with Meta, you know, this plugging your phone into your brain, I think this is exactly the wrong way that we need to go. We need to use technology as a catalyst. And I think that there's loads of examples. I'm writing a paper about it at the moment. And if we think about, you know, the ancient philosophers talking about the last man, like Nietzsche talks about the last man versus the overman. I think the transhumanist is the last man. I think that this is the ending of humanity if we go down a transhumanist route. And I think that yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff going on with machine learning. There is no artificial intelligence. I think that machine learning is what we have at the moment, and that there's plenty that we can do in combination with the machine. But I think that to give ourselves over for our human becoming to become a machine becoming is absolutely the wrong angle. But yeah, I think in terms of other ways of experiencing the spectral nature of consciousness, I'm super interested in death literacy. flatlining, people that go edge themselves closer to death in order to try and peek across the veil. I think those experiments, although dangerous, are also fascinating. But also the life review, the phenomenology of a life review. I don't know how many of you have experienced a life review. Normally you experience a life review in a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience. I had a full-on life review where I experienced what may well happen at death, which was the ability to so I experienced my life in reverse, and that's common in the phenomenology of a life review. You experience your life in reverse in this episodic memory. And so I was very amazed to experience this ability to jump out of point of view. So I was able to leave my body in the life review and become anything else in the scene. So the first thing I tried actually was the table. So I went into the table and became wood consciousness and me then. So I was in a triple consciousness, not a double consciousness. I was able to go into other people and become them and me then and me currently. So I was still in my normal consciousness. So it's this ability to realize that in life, I think that we're driving a point of view, but in the death state, we have access to field of view. So your life becomes a product and you're able to then experience other people. I think karma is, you don't escape karma. Karma, if you've harmed somebody in this life, you will experience them being them and you at the same time to massively maximize learning of what this place is, which is a playground of learning, I believe, in this life.
Luna.
Ok,
conseguimos. A gente vai subir com a tua tela agora, tá?
Ok.
Thank you, everybody.
So we did manage to get Luna's presentation here by mail, and it's going to be on. So we're going to pass on to you, Luna.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Luna.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the invitation, Malu and Guto. And just advance, I will say you next, because I cannot control it. Okay, next.
Luna,
okay.
You say when you need to change this slide, okay?
Yeah, I'll say you're next, because sometimes it's going to be very quick, okay? All right. So my story goes back with meeting Terence McKenna in 1971. Next. You have to go quickly, yeah. Because he was in Florencia, my town in the Colombian Amazon, and he told me about Yahé. He was writing his book, The Invisible Landscape, that he co-authored with Dennis. Next. And we took Yahé together with a Yahé that had been prepared by Apolinar Yacanomijoy and Ingano India. Next. So at that time, 1971, we took it then Terence, his girlfriend, a Hungarian friend, and me. But in 1971, I went back to Florencia, and I went to see Don Apolinar. Next. I took Yahé for the second time with him, which was an extraordinary experience. And I decided that I was going to go back with him because he said that Yahé is a doctor, is a person, is a being, but you need to have a diet for several 40 days and so on. I was not able to stay with him in 1979, but I promised to go back, and I was even thinking to make a film about him. Next. And okay, I said that we took Yahé. I took Yahé. Yahé is the preparation between a combination of Banisteriopsis caapi and Diplopterus cabrerana, which is another vine. Next. Which is different from ayahuasca, which is the same vine, Banisteriopsis caapi, but with another, the leaves of another plant is a Rubiacea psychotrophidis. Next. So here you have the distribution of the Yahé and ayahuasca. Next. And Don Apolinar died before I went back, And so Terence told me, go to Iquitos in the Peruvian Amazon, next. And there I met Don Emilio Andrade Gomez, who told me about the plants. He said that ayahuasca was a teacher, it was a doctor. Many other plants were also doctores, and the plants knew each other. So, next. I made a film, Don Emilio and His Little Doctors, that you can see on YouTube. If you put my name in this title, Don Emilio and His Little Doctors, next. And spent with him that summer and then every summer for several years, next. And he told me then ayahuasca and all these plants, Brunfelsia, Brugmansia, Caliandra, tobacco, Curupita guienensis, they were all teachers. Next. I wrote a first article about the concept of plant as teachers. In 83, it was published in 84, it was published in French and in German. And then my doctoral dissertation was published in Stockholm in 1986, also with the Czechish edition. Next. Anyway, the idea that the plants are teachers, it goes within the idea of animism, which is you find in the Amazon and all over America, in fact. Once Don José Corral, this vegetalista, was preparing ayahuasca and he saw bubbles coming out, he said, you look at those, these are people. Next. I found the same concept of plant teachers in a way in the Sibundoy Valley when I was doing field work with the Kamsa indigenous group in Colombia, in the Sibundoy Valley. There was a mestizo apprentice there who said that the garden around the shaman is the garden of science. Next. Now, in this extraordinary book published first in French and then in English and in Portuguese about Davico Panawa, written together with Bruce Albert. Davico Panawa, next. Davico Panawa said that I did not learn to think about the things of the forest by setting my eyes on paper skins. These are books. I saw them by drinking my elders' breast of life with the yacoana powder they gave me. Next. And this powder is made of the resin of Virola elongata, also called Virola teidora. Next. So this is a powder, and next, it contains, just pass it, it contains dimethyltryptamine, 5-methoxydimethyltryptamine, a very powerful substance. Next. It's also found in the Sonora Desert. Next. Next. Okay. So you have to go a little bit quicker, because I have a lot of slides and this is my method. So we talk about ayahuasca. This is chacruna, Cicotra viridis. Next. And Caliandra. Next. Caliandra. Next. This is Brugmansia aurea. Continue. Tobacco, Nicotiana tobacco, Nicotiana rustica, Oleoleuci, which is Ribea corimbosa. Continue. You can move the fast, and now we think of art and teachers. The great pioneer in this was Gerardo Reiser-Lomatov, who wrote this book, Amazonian Cosmos, in which he discovered the importance of Banisteriosa capi in the iconography, in the narrations of the Tucano Indians. Next. So, next. He realized that all the iconography in the Moluccas, it is all based on the visions. And he gave paper and pencil, color pencils to the Indians so that they could do whatever they wanted to do. And they painted these fantastic visions with a description of the designs. So there is here a certain language. Next. The same was done by Jean Landon, an American anthropologist who was teaching here in Florianopolis. She did a similar work with the Siona, in which she found the body painting, all the iconography in the ceramics, in the tools was all related to the visions they had with Capi. Next. I did field work among the Shipibo, and the same thing. Next. All the art done by the women is inspired by the visions they have under the effects of ayahuasca, and in fact, the iconography is related to healing. Next, because they believe that in a way these are expressions of musicality of these designs, not a partiture like it was misinterpreted, but there is a musicality in it. This was the work of Angelika Gebhardt, a German anthropologist. Next. We have also the Anadenanthera peregrina and Anadenanthera colubrina used in northern peregrina in northern South America and the Caribbean, and colubrina in the south. Next. And we know that the iconography, for instance, of the Tiwanaku is all based on the experiences with Anadenanthera colubrina. The same with the Moche culture. You have the iconography related to the Anadenanthera colubrina. Next. So we go to the Amazon, and we all know about the biological diversity of the Amazon. Next. But we have also the cultural diversity with 350 languages in the Amazon, which belong to many six or seven linguistic families plus several isolates. Next. Compare the Europe with only 4 linguistic families. Most of Europe is simply one family, Indo-European, compared to the plurality of languages in the Amazon. Next. But the thing is that there is not only biological and cultural diversity, but also diversity in a state of consciousness, because are the Amazonian who discover many more plants, plants that affect consciousness. There are more plants that affect consciousness in the Amazon than anywhere in the world. So I remember talking to Joe Camilla, the father of biofeedback, the Greeks. He was telling me, so you're telling me that the Amazonians were the great experts in a state of consciousness. Next. But of course, all this was persecuted. We know, I will not read the whole thing, So the peyote and the ayahuasca and the brugmansia, all these were persecuted as the work of the devil. Next. In 1983, I met Dennis, Terence's brother. Next. And we did field together. We went to the Colombian Amazon, then we went to the Peruvian Amazon. Next. I organized in Bogota the first interdisciplinary conference or symposium on ayahuasca, and I invited Dennis McKenna. We went there from the Bogota, went to Pucallpa. Next. We collected plants for Hawaii, for the botanical dimensions in Hawaii, botanical garden, ethnobotanical garden, and he introduced me to Pablo Maringo. Next. He was living in a very poor house, no electricity, no water, no toilet. Next. And he had shown us some landscapes made on very cheap paper with aquarelles. Next. And he had done an exhibition years before in Switzerland, paintings, portraits of indigenous women. Next. But then I realized that he had a eidetic memory. He could remember anything he had seen. And I asked him, do you remember the visions that you had when you were a vegetalista? Because he told me that he was a vegetalista, but he has stopped drinking ayahuasca for 7 years. He said, I remember all of it. So he painted this vision. He painted 2 visions. He gave me 1. Next. I took that which had given to me, and I sent it a letter asking for all these elements here. Next. And so he answered a long description of those elements that I asked in the vision that he sent me. Next. So here, long description. Continue. And so it's going to take a little time. Please, next. We go a little bit faster now. So here, for instance, number 1, he has this warrior. He said these are representations of warriors sent by a muralla, a type of shaman, who is watching his victim who is being cured during the session in order to overpower the healer if he is not attentive. Other warriors with shields and swords came to fight. These are the powers the healer has at his disposal to resist any invasion from the enemy. So next one. So here we have the 2. The second one, Lola Baluarte, a power queen possessing sublime magical powers, manipulating a magic cage of great power to capture her enemies. She is an inhabitant of Venus. Next. So here we have a king. These are princesses of enchantment and love, irradiating waves of captivating music to attract with inescapable charm. Her dancers accompany the rhythm with sweet melodies. They are also from Venus. Next. Next. And a beautiful flying object from Jupiter is a flying saucer. This is the number 4. And number 5, okay. No, you're going backwards. Okay, yeah, so this is a spaceship. Next. A king. Next, continue. Hello? Next. Okay, a great king Kung. Continue. Another king, Sakya. Continue. There's no time to read the whole description. And yet another one. So here we have, it is next. So it is extraordinary. I realized that there was a tremendous potential because he not only talked about the spirit, but he could see the names and where they were coming from. So we started a collaboration. You can continue showing several of the paintings. Continue a collaboration. This is, for instance, the vision that we have is related to the Ayahuman plant. Continue. These are the spirits of the ayahuasca and psychotria getting together. Next. The spirit of plants. Next. Several representations of the spirits of plants, because they say that all plants have spirits or mothers or owners. Next. And here, one more. Continue. So the different visions of the underworld, underwater world, of the sky. Continue. And this is, I asked him to make a painting for me. I commissioned a painting, and he made this extraordinary painting, Cosmologia Amazonica, Amazonian cosmology, with a description of 35 pages. Continue. Next. So here we have a Renaco tree. Continue. And the representation of the same Renaco tree with the spirits. Continue. More visions of, with cities, with different spirits, with flying saucers. Continue. The Lupuna tree in the Amazon. Next. And then a representation in the visions of the tree, which is like a axis mundi, from inside of which the shaman is going to other worlds, underworld or up in the sky. Next. So we published in 1991, we published this book, Ayahuasca Visions. Next. And he continued painting visions. Was a long collaboration. Continue. I continue. Organize exhibitions in different places. I introduced Pablo to another artist there. I forgot his name right now. And continue. Organize exhibitions. We took him to Miami, to Stockholm, to Norway. Next. This is an exhibition in Florida. Continue. Hello. Yeah, this is another exhibition in Germany. The plants as Lehrer, the plants as teachers. Continue. In Japan. Next. And he continued at the same time, not only doing visions but also landscapes. Continue. Next. 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 And especially in Finland, where I was living, it was a great success. I organized a big exhibition, and it was in the newspapers and the television and so on. Next. And he had this capacity to see in any shape. He could see figures. Like this is a piece of amate paper from Mexico. Next. Next. And this is what he painted, just looking at the shape. Okay, next. Continue. Okay, no, continue, please. This, I have to go faster, because this, no. Okay, so what is behind all this idea? And there is a very important concept in the Amazon, and probably in all animistic societies. As Eduardo Vivero de Castro has said, to know is to personify, to take the point of view of that which is to be known. For shamanic knowledge envisages something which is someone, another subject or agent. So you are always talking to subjects. The other takes the form of a person. Continue. So in this view, the original condition common to humans and animals is not animality as is in our view of the world, but it's rather humanity. Because many of the myths in the beginning of time, everything was human. And as this Eduardo Kohn, an anthropologist, said, selfhood does not solely belong to humans. Any entity which communicates through the use of science can be considered a self, leading to a complex ecology of selves, of which humans and non-humans are both a part. Continue. And David Kopanauer says, the spirit of the forest are the forest itself, with no power to stop the devastation caused by the ignorance of the white people, who he calls it earth eaters. Continue. So all these animals in the forest, all these plants around them, next, these are all people. These are all people who relate, they learn songs, they communicate with. Continue. Next. So he said that plants, an example, plants do not grow by themselves without reason. Banana plants are plant women. Their fruits are born because they are gravid and they give birth. The same is true of every plant that grows in gardens and the forest. First, the plant women are pregnant. The pregnancy lasts for some time. Then they deliver. This is when their fruit appears. They are born like humans and animals. Next. The problem then is with our way of seeing in the Western world, with objectivity. Next. The way is a separation. There is a subject, there is an object. But the way of looking at things in animistic societies, next, it is a relational epistemology. There are two subjects which know each other. They know through identification of transformation. There is reciprocity. Next. Okay, another thing that happened when I met Pablo is that some kids began to come to his home and ask for paper and pen. Next. And so I told Pablo, well, this looks like a school. Let's create a school. Next. And we created the Ushuaia School of Painting in 1988. Next. Which grew. The kids were enormously talented. They could use Pablo's eidetic memory. Apparently, Amazonians have this ability. They're able to see a plant and reproduce it on the paper without copying. You know, they will internalize the plant and then copy, and then learn, of course, from the environment. They will not be isolated. They will be always within a certain eco-niche. Next. We created a school with the organization. Next. It was too small, Pablo's home, so we created, we got next space for more people. Next. Kids that were at some point continue. Next. We had a big exhibition in Oslo. I will come to that later. Next. So great enthusiasm. Next. Next. They were painting the forests, the plants. Next. Animals, plants. Next. Organized. Of course, we have celebration every year. Next. And extraordinary portraits of the forest. Continue. We got a computer, so it was too small, the school, so we have to build a bigger one. At some point, we have 300 students. All of this was for free. No, they didn't pay anything, any tuition, and they got all the art materials for free. If a painting that was later sold, the artist will get 50%. The other 50% goes to the school. Continue. We created an ethnobotanical garden. Next, which we have to abandon because of the shining path, the guerrilla. But then another garden was created near Iquitos. Next, and I asked the 14 kids to go to that garden, make a portrait of plants. And it was the very last exhibition I organized was in Washington in the Capitol Children's Museum with the portraits of this garden. Next. This is Anders of the Bernardi. Continue. Well, just one example, extraordinary paintings by him. Continue. Continue. Next. Next. And he started also to do visionary artists. And now he's a very well-known artist traveling the world with his paintings. Next. And this is our ayahuasca reader. We know one of the paintings of the Bernardi. Next. We have very interesting cases. This fisherman came to the school. Next, on cardboard board, he had this painting. I told Pablo, please don't teach him anything. Just give him the materials that he needs. Continue. Next. So he made a series of extraordinary paintings, flat, beautiful. I mean, next. Next. These are all, they look like real butterflies, but they are painted with extreme care. Unfortunately, he was murdered just when he was taking care of some chickens, and we lost a great artist. Next. We had another case. This is a woman from the Andes. Next. Who started to do visionary artist paintings as well. Next. So very strange, you know, such a humble woman. So suddenly, with the opportunities, you will start to paint the visions. Next. And some of the kids painted visions as well. Next. Okay. Ayahuasca visions by the students. Next. This is Jimmy Perez. Next. And this is in one of the exhibitions when we went to Japan. Next. And there was the director of the Children's Museum in Oslo went to the, well, I met him in Oslo, and then he had the idea to ask the kids to present disasters of the Amazon. Next, and just a few examples. This is the students, a massacre. Next, a hurricane or a whirlpool. Next, etc. So it's a series. So this next disasters, the garbage in the forest being destroyed. Next. And okay, organize many exhibitions as well. This was in next in New York. Organized one. It became very famous in Peru. The School of Painting became, big news. Calendars. Next. This is the exhibition in New York. Next. Next. And covers of books. Next. One more. More exhibitions. This was in Finland, where we saw practically everything that it was shown. Next. Some of the students, I took them to various countries. This is in Finland, where Pablo Maringo, one of the students, was teaching in a school, demonstrating the work they did by memory, not copying anything, just by memory. Continue. We had sending some of the students to Tabatinga. Next, Leticia. And at the end, when the project grew so much, it grew too much, and it became very complicated. It was so the more money came to the school, the more complicated it was. And I had given several years of my life pro bono, never took a penny from the school, and so I have to give up and retire from the school. Okay, but anyway, voluntary in 1995. Next. But then I continue being interested in visionary art. So this is one of the exhibitions I did in Canton, New York. Continue. Next. Next. I did another one in Valparaiso. And then publications came after I left the school. This phenomenon of visionary art continued. So there were publications that came out that I saw later. Next. So this was next. Yeah, from books. Next. Yeah. So the style of Pablo Maringo had a big influence, and I met this sculpture and introduced Pablo and this sculpture, I don't remember his name, and then came another wave of artists which were combining the sculptures with visionary art. Next.
Luna.
Next. Okay, yeah.
It's
too long, huh? It's too long. Okay, so I have to, unfortunately, we have to stop here. All right. Anyway, perhaps no. Okay, it's impossible to, yes. So Pablo died, I don't remember, 2010 or 11. Next. It was very sad to see him go. Well, we have not been in contact for some years, but his legacy is there. Next, just very quickly, the last slides. This is a funeral. Next, and some of the kids are now artists. Next, this is De Verdad in 1990, 2013. And next, continue. I want to show you very quickly. So new people came to Pucallpa, organized exhibitions. This is a big exhibition in Florida. Next. Next. And this is, I met by chance this man, Belgian, Jean-Paul Buick, who is now organizing big exhibitions. So that this project, which started so humble, it continues even today. Next, I think that we have the next two, so this is from this beginning, the students grew up and became teachers next. And now from these kids, this is in 1982, now to kids today, and the project continues. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luna. Don't have time for questions, but thank you very much for incredible presentation. Okay.
Luna, it was fascinating. We would love to see more of these images. We will. We will have time for that.
A pity. All right. Okay. Anyway, so thank you very much for the invitation. Anyway.
Thank you all, Olga and Carl, if you're there. So we're gonna maybe put them on. Não, já foi? Acabou.
A gente vai então direto para a próxima mesa.
Fechamos essa mesa e agradecemos. Thank you all.
Pode colocar na tela então para a gente, Vinícius?
A gente vai passar direto para a próxima. Para dar continuidade. A gente vai começar com César? Ou vai começar com a Marília?
Eu falei com a Paula, talvez começar com a Paula.
Tá.